let's see, I have to tell you that I was extremely intimidated and very challenged by this topic. And it actually, like Christian brought this up to me about a couple months ago, I guess. And I just kind of thought, man, I don't know where to begin with this. I don't know what to talk about. And I really kind of was like, very challenged, and it caused me to kind of be introspective and I think say, why am I challenged by this topic? I'm a woman, it should come easy to me. But for some reason it didn't. And I think wrongly, my mind maybe went to, I don't know, some of those strong feminists and the feminist movement and things like that I don't always prescribe to. Just their thinking is a little bit different than mine in some respects. So again, wrongly, I think I kind of went there and was like, I don't know if I can talk about something like that. But because I believe that all people are strong, and I think we all, man or woman, have inherent sort of natural qualities and acquired qualities and traits that make us strong people, and we have different strengths and weaknesses and all that. So it was kind of, but we're here to talk about female empowerment, so we'll kind of gravitate that way. And I guess I have to think that, and I guess even growing up, like that's where some, your views are shaped when you are raised in a family, and my parents, I was the oldest of 4 children, so there were 3 daughters, and then my little brother was born, and poor Seamus, his name is Seamus, Irish family, right? And the poor kid didn't stand a chance with 3 older sisters. I think we tortured him to death. So, but he's good. He grew up. He's fine. I don't think we did too much damage to him. But anyway, my parents raised us all, whether we were, boys or girls, to be strong people. They really, their mission, they really wanted to see us as independent people. They wanted us to form opinions independently. They wanted us to not be reliant on other people, whoever those other people were. So that's kind of how I grew up. And then kind of taking that into my professional life, I just always tried to be, when I was in your seats, I tried to be the best student that I could be, that my capabilities allowed me. And going into, professional career, I always just tried to be the best doctor that I could be and be the best business person that I could be. And I guess I never really thought about it in that woman context. I wanted to be the best, whether, I was competing against a woman, whether I was competing against a man. It didn't matter to me. And I guess that's a really great thing as women, isn't it? That we have certainly reached that level where, I don't know, we can do the same things. We have empowerment, and I'm very proud to be a woman. I'm proud to be a woman in veterinary medicine. I was very proud to be a business owner in our community. And I think there are very amazing qualities that women have that allow us to do these things. And I've seen just many, many examples in my life. And from growing up to just family and friends, women, and seeing the things that they have accomplished in their professional careers and their personal lives, of course, too. We can't discount that. I know we're kind of more, I don't know, maybe in the professional line of thinking here. But, and in my work, in my career, I've worked with some amazing women, and whether they were my employees, part of our team, whether they were my associates, whether they were colleagues that I did work with, tremendous people with tremendous lives that could do a lot of things at the same time. And that is one thing that, women, we do work, we do raise families, we nurture, there's really fabulous qualities that we do have. And I don't even think I need to tell you guys about all those. Very strong things that we obviously want to maintain and want to grow and want to instill in other people. If I'm not forgetting what we talked about initially, because I think when Christian asked me, I was like, what do I talk about? What is this about? And I think one of the things that we might have said were there any times in your career, right? I hope I'm on the right track, that you did feel like you were maybe discriminated against as a woman or intimidated as a woman. And I really had to think about this and kind of dig deep. And the good news is, in my 23 years of practice and now 6 years of academia, I really, a couple of examples that I'll tell you about. So that is the good news, right? That I had to dig deep. And I have done, when I first got out of school, a lot of you know just from class, I did large animal primarily. It was kind of mixed animal practice, but it was primarily large animal. Then we moved, I was in New York, and we moved to North Carolina. I did primarily small animal. As an associate, both of those were as associates, so that was about 5 years. And then the remaining 18 years of my career, I started my own animal hospital and ran that, even up until including just last year. I sold it last year, so even when I was here. And I think knowing that and that experience in that many years, 23 years, I had to really think hard about if there were times when I really felt like I was intimidated or discriminated against. And I came up with two that I'll kind of share with you. And they're looking back, I mean, it's not that they were silly. The first one was kind of silly, I think, and a little bit unbelievable, but they weren't huge things. They weren't major ordeals. They're just little things that I learned from and that I like to pass on to other people. But the first, and I'm going to be hazy on details, I couldn't remember. This was in our first practice. So I had when I first started, we built a 2,000 square foot facility, and it was kind of in a medical building, so it wasn't a standalone. And so I remember distinctly being in the reception of that when this happened. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't this huge event, but I was discussing a case with a disgruntled client, and he was a male client. And can't remember what the case was about or but I knew it at some point, I think it had turned kind of bad, and he was not having what I was saying, and he was closed off, wasn't listening to me. So I remember standing there, and I can't remember why we were in the reception. I always had talks, discussions in the exam rooms, private and closed, but for some reason, I want to say he probably refused to go in there, and I think he wanted to talk to me quickly one last time or something like that, so I probably came out. I'm imagining that's why this took place here, but so I was standing there, and I was going over some things in this doc's record, and he was getting angry. Not to the point of crossing a line at that point, but he was getting, you could tell, he was getting a little worked up. And I was reading to him, and he grabbed the record out of my hand. Just grabbed it right out. And in those few seconds, your brain is like, did he just do that? Did he really just rip a record out of my hand? So what did I do? I took it back. I just grabbed it right back. Like, before I had time to even think about it, I don't know if that was the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but it was my hospital. It was my thing. So I grabbed it back from him, and I gave him a little lesson on whose records these really are, and I think that's something he said as he was grabbing it, that those are my dog's records, I'll take them. So I gave him a little lesson on that, and that no, they were indeed not his records, they were the property of our animal hospital. I would be happy to make a copy for him, and he can wait outside for that copy, because at that point, he had crossed the line. So that was one example, and again, something that happened quickly, but I guess you could say, I don't think he would have done that if it was a male doctor. I'll never know, but I felt at that moment, wow, you just totally did this because I'm a woman and you think you can do this. So I wanted to prove to him that he was not going to get away with that. So that was my first example. My second one, I just forgot the second one. Isn't that terrible? Oh my gosh. Let me think of what else I was going to tell you guys. Give me a second. I should have written it down. my second one. I told you there weren't many, so I had to dig deep for these. And again, hazy on the details, the exact details. All I remember, it was a couple that I didn't know very well. They were, I think, fairly new clients, came in only occasionally. It was, again, for a dog, and I think it was, I remember it being a poisoning case. Not a bad poisoning, but something like, and it was the wife, the woman who brought in this dog as an emergency, and we, did all the right things, got the dog in right away, or dropped everything we were doing, saw this emergency case, and the dog wasn't in bad shape whatsoever. I mean, if I remember, I can't remember what the toxin was, but I think all we had to do was induce vomiting, gave some activated charcoal, and I think had the dog hospitalized on some IV fluids. Like, it just wasn't a huge thing medically, but there was a bill, right? I mean, and it was money spent, and it was hundreds of dollars for those things. And who do I have to discharge to? But of course, it's the husband, who was not a part of the decision-making process and was clearly not happy with the decisions that were made. So I go into our consult room, and it was one of these situations where I definitely felt like he was trying to intimidate me. He got, I won't say right up in my face, it wasn't like that, but just kind of made it very clear. He walked up and very, puffed up his chest and, was just harsh in the way he was saying things to me and trying to just body language intimidate me. I mean, it was very clear. But again, the goal is not to try and be confrontational ever. You're always obviously trying to talk your clients down a bit. And again, at that point, he had not crossed a line. And I had to kind of assume that position where I had to be confident and not necessarily, again, not confrontational, not sort of puff out my chest and be angry, but I had to assume certainly a pretty confident position and had to calmly explain to him that the situation where it was an emergency situation, I did the best medicine that I felt was necessary at the time to help this animal. And I absolutely had both verbal and written consent by his wife. And if they had a problem with that, they could certainly talk about that. But I did what I was, I laid out a treatment plan and I did what I was allowed to do. And anyway, he wasn't happy, but he left, and there weren't any further issues with that. He just thought in his mind it was overkill, it shouldn't have, but he's not a doctor, he didn't know that. And there were maybe one or two other times where a client, I don't know, used foul language, something like that, and I was never afraid to, and I hope you guys aren't either. You don't take that, you don't stand for that. And there will be some, I think, men, and not only just men, but people in general, who try and look for weakness, and in some people it's because you are a woman, with some, I think very few, but there are some, who will try and intimidate and try to put you in an awkward position, try and assert themselves to get their way. And I hope you guys know that, you don't take that. When people cross that line, when people use foul language, when you feel intimidated, when you feel like you're being attacked in any way, I hope you stand up and say, this is my world, this is, whether it's your business, your exam room, your whatever, you shouldn't take that, and you should protect your employees against that too. One of sort of my mantras in our practice was, I had my employees' backs. They were never going to be talked to badly, with a client, and I have fired a handful of clients for that. They're not worth it. They're not worth it to have it in your practice. Do I have empathy towards clients in that situation, like the man? I knew it was obviously a financial problem, the guy in the exam room, that they didn't have the money. And I know that was a struggle for them. This was during the recession, and it it was, you know, it was a tough decision for them, and it was tough money spent for them. So I have empathy, but at the same time, it's not your fault. You know, everyone has the responsibility to take care of their pets. So they can never take out these things on you or on your staff just because you may appear weaker, or you're in a weaker position, or because you're a woman. So I hope you remember those things and act on them in the same way, no matter, and that goes for men too, right? Just anyone that is trying to, you know, be the aggressor, and you know, you never want to let someone get away with that. So, am I empowered as a woman, as a female veterinarian, as everything? Yes, I mean it tremendously, and there are really great things that I see going on that I have in my career, and I see amazing things with the students here, and I see, you know, it just, I mean, the changes that have occurred in our profession with women, as we're talking about women, is pretty remarkable and incredible, isn't it? How it went from, you know, primarily male-dominated to now the complete opposite. Amazing things have happened, amazing things will continue to happen. I'm happy to be a part of that and to see you guys get out in that world. So that's all I have.